All right.
So we are recording.
Hello.
Hello. So this is an episode of Healing for Healers, but it's also an episode of the Great Adventures of the Z Collective, whatever you want to call it.
Lovely country.
Um,
Yep.
Z and I have never really talked together online, just the two of us. I mean, we've talked together plenty of times offline, the two of us, but I thought it'd be really kind of cool to get to know Z a little bit deeper and also to just see what comes in. Usually when I do a Healing for Healers episode, I would have a list of questions. But I think it would be really interesting for people to know a little bit more about you, Z, your background maybe, or whatever you feel like sharing with us today as to where you get your remarkable and I would say unique perspective on the energy. I mean, how did that start to open up for you? Is that okay to talk about that?
Absolutely. Let's go for it. So my opening really happened when I was a child. I really had a good remembrance of why I was here, what was happening. I more so talked to energy than I did humans. So that was always a great thing. I always talked to plants and animals versus humans as well. In fact, I look at it now and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't so much into the human phase of things.
I'm kind of getting like that now myself now.
Yeah, like, what is humanity? That's kind of interesting. So at a really, really, really young age, I just had a knowledge base of why I was here. A really deep understanding of energy and how plants and animals really had a strong connection. And for me, when I was little, humans didn't, and I didn't have a really great connection with humans as well. So I more so conversed with other things, and I always had really big night visions, and I had lots of beautiful beings come in and around me and show me many different things. More so traditional shamanic way. I did see animals, and the plants taught me a lot about medicine right off the bat. So when I was about, I would say 4 or 5, I remember having my neighbors come over and be like, "Hey, my dog's sick. So can you help my dog?" And my mom would be like, "What is happening right now? I don't think she knows anything." And I would go right up to it and I'd be like, "Okay, here are some of the things that you need. And this dog is like has some heart stuff going on." And so it was kind of baffling to my mom when I was super young about how I interacted with things.
So you're really the archetype of the magical child, which, I have a sense of you like the godmother, the fairy godmother was actually a fairy, well, probably an ET. But that's wonderful because we come across the magical child very often in the literature, but not so often, let's say, as an actual person. So that explains your joy as well and the brightness of your outlook that you have on everything. So that's fabulous.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
how
yeah.
did your mother deal with this, or did she try to shut you down?
And she did not try and shut me down. She actually saw me in a vision coming in and heard that I was really, really sensitive. And so she kind of denied her teachings from her parents and the environment, and she allowed me to kind of express myself in the way that I wanted to, which was really beautiful.
That is so rare.
Yes, it is
That is
super rare.
especially for a magical child. I think when magical child with the true wonder of the world in their eyes and in their heart might seem to be like the weirdest of the weird with the WYRD where weird is the it is that amazing connection to nature and all things.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It was a really beautiful connection. I do really remember being in and around other people and having interesting things happening, and they were entirely scared. So that's when I started to shut things down a little bit during that process is when I was around other people and friends because they didn't really quite know how to handle it.
So would you have been older then, like coming into teenage years, something like that, or?
Yeah, so I would say probably around 11, 12, more so. I started to shut that down more.
Yeah, that's really when we come into our need to belong in society. I think
Mhm.
when we come up to the age of 7, it's like this is what the world is, and then there are some fixed ideas that we make at 7 that stay fixed for the rest of our lives. And when people are doing inner child work, those are usually the things that we have to unfix. But then when you're more out of that, like 8, 9, 10, you're looking at your friends, maybe my normal isn't their normal, realizing that people have different things going on in their houses. So, okay. So what happened for you then, walking in the world as a lesser version of who you had the potential to be?
It was really numb. It was really numb, it was really bland for a period of time. I still had the visions, but I wasn't really listening to that. I really wanted to have friends. I wanted to be, really involved in what the human aspect was like because I was more so forced into that from my perspective, into wanting to fit in, into being like everybody else, into being in that paradigm. And it wasn't until I was about probably 21, 22 when it all came back around and hit me really hard.
Because I was going to just ask you that. Did something happen, or you
Yeah,
don't have
so
to, you don't have to share everything. I mean, that's what I love about you. People just eviscerate themselves online. And I think by saying, no, I'm not talking about that, because I do that with my family, it's teaches people you can have boundaries. So I'm not, anything you're not comfortable talking
sure.
about, just don't talk about it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This I'm very comfortable talking about. It's something that I love to tell my uniqueness in my presence because a lot of times it really just wakes somebody up really quickly to the idea that there's something else out there. Around 21 or so, I would say, I started to get really ill and really, really, really ill. And I would continuously go into the doctors. They would have no clue what was going on. I would have interesting things like spinal issues and fractures that they wouldn't know were there. Just really, really weird stuff. And then I would go back
Painful
in.
though.
Yeah, very painful, very painful. And I would go back in probably, I would say a few weeks later to a few months, and it would be gone. So it would be one of those interesting, like it would come in and then it would leave. And during that period of time, I would start to see energy more. I would start to see mathematics and numbers, and then really, really a lot of beings. And so I went through that crazy state for a period of time of, okay, my existence is completely shifting. But that existence was so much more real to me than anything else, and I remember just a lot of accuracy during that time too. I couldn't keep like lights on, but I would have lots of information coming through. Like if I was driving, I would hear, "Hey, uh, you're gonna want to turn left now because this car is gonna sideswipe you." And so that information came in really direct, and I followed it, and I kept following it, and my body kept getting sicker and sicker, and I ended up having a near-death experience.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm. So, and that just opened everything up further. It's just an instantaneous remembrance.
Okay, because I was just going to say, when this information comes in hard and fast and you start to listen to it and do it, it's like exercising a muscle that's been dormant for a long time. And the more you listen and do, if it makes sense, I mean, if they're going to tell you to turn left when there's an actual car in the way, you start to wonder where you're getting the information from.
Right.
But I find during times like that, you need a person maybe to validate what's going on for you. Did you have anybody at the time?
So at that time, I really didn't have I didn't my family, they were supportive. My father wasn't actually supportive. My mother was really supportive. My father had no clue what was going on or decided that he didn't want to know what was going on. We'll say that until later on. Uh and I went through that process and came out of it, and on my path, I met a shaman, and she came up to me and said, "Hey, look, I just know that I'm supposed to be out and I'm supposed to be here teaching now." She hadn't been practicing for a while, and she'd had some visions. And so she ended up taking me in for a little bit of time and really describing what my process was like because I was having a lot of really shamanic visions. a lot of tear parts, a lot of animals coming in to shred me to pieces. Really, really
Okay.
intense,
So a lot
intense
of
vision,
dismemberment.
a lot of dismemberment.
And was this
So
before or after your near-death experience?
I was starting to have them before. hmm
And then you had this NDE. What was that
hmm
like?
It was entirely beautiful. I actually saw the beings coming in and they said that I was going to go and I was going to be okay. And that was the part of my little self, the part of the really, really natural remembrance that I had that really trusted that piece. So my system started to get really, really, really sick. I didn't quite make it to a hospital. I was headed to one. I didn't quite make it there, and I had all these beings around me, and they said, "You're going to be okay." And I remember the point where my heart stopped, and I left out of my crown. And as soon as I did that, it was a lot of support, and I just remembered why I was here.
Okay.
Mhm.
And were you gone for a long time, or did it seem like you were gone for a long time?
It seemed like I was gone for a very long time. Very, very, very long time. I was traversing different spaces and different realms and places that I remembered. And I remember a lot of ancestors coming to me and saying, "Hey, you really do have your choice here. If you want to go back into your body, that's going to be okay. You're okay to stay here too. Either way, you're safe." And they started to teach me. They not just teach; it's just a remembering. They came in a circle around me, and they started to give me memories of what it's like down here, what Earth is like, how the plants interact, uh, what kind of like the prophecies were too. I remember the prophecies that came through, the really natural native prophecies of the condor and the eagle coming together and all the medicines coming together. So it was kind of that spark that really, gave me the choice and the option to come back and the realization that coming back would be something that I would want to do because it would really, really help benefit everything else that was happening in the universe.
So I really get a sense of a soul contract being
Yes.
solidified at that point.
Mhm.
Maybe it was like you're they upgraded the depth of the mission that you were going to do, or
Huh?
and bring on the help. Wow. So when you came to, when you came back in your body, were you in a hospital then, or
I was not in the hospital. I was on the floor. I had passed out and I was on the floor and I was at work. So I was ready to get out to go to the hospital. I worked with a couple of disabled siblings at that time. That was just a really beautiful process for me. And I had told their parents that I was not feeling well and I couldn't get in. And they had called the emergency, and I was out on the floor. And by the time that they got there, I was back in my body.
okay, okay. So I've read a few books, and I have another friend who's had an ND and written books about it. And I just think more and more people, if they knew,
Mhm.
tangible experience, that we would live life differently. We would embrace what we have to a much stronger degree, and do more. Yes, I think that's the stay safe is one of the worst phrases to come out of this pandemic.
Oh,
People
definitely.
shouldn't live safely. They should live vibrantly.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely, and without risk too. And that really put into my system like, hey, there is really nothing to fear here. We are everlasting, we're ever living, and it's infinite. And so right then I was like, dude, everything that is little that we worry about is no, it means nothing. Even our day-to-day lives and how we work things, like it is it's the illusion aspect, and the reality of it is we're one consciousness, one infinite being who's learning and growing through these beautiful perspectives in our bodies.
It's so beautiful. And I think what's really coming through for me in the last 6 months is that this awakening, this growth, which I want to get you to talk about in a minute.
Mhm,
For me, it's not just the individual. I mean, I think there's always going to be a few individuals that shoot ahead of the pack, but it's
mhm,
about bringing the pack along. It's about bringing everybody with us. And
Mhm.
that's why I think now, having met you now and seeing how you work and how you think, and it's just incredible to me that it's so important to be able to, you say stuff, we unpack it, and then people go, "Oh my God,"
Exactly.
what's going on. And I love that. I love that. So when you came back and you embraced who you are, you
Mhm.
would have probably gone back to work in this reality at some point. But how did you start to expand? You connected with the shaman.
I did, I did. So I worked for with the shaman for a period of time. It was probably only like 4 months. I immediately came back in and left my job.
And then you
It was
started teaching her, I'd imagine, at some point.
Yeah, I left immediately and, opened up a practice really fast. I worked with her for a small period and until she was like, "You're already doing the work. Like you don't need my help. You don't need to move forward with this perspective of it. Go ahead and go with that." And so I opened up a practice and it was natural. It was like I'd never left that realm.
Yeah, you grew into yourself.
Yeah. Mhm.
As we still are growing, it's almost as if, do you know when you get a puppy and the ears are too big and the paws are too big, and then they grow into adults and the ears and the paws are the right size? What it feels like for me now is that our ears and our paws are still keep growing, and just as we catch up with them, they grow again, and we have to catch up again.
Yep. That's exactly how it's like. You never really catch up to growth of your paws.
I know. So, okay, so let's bring it to the present day where
Mhm.
we're all working together, you, me, and Honey. And I love the combination of our personalities and the way we see things differently. Maybe you could give the listeners just a little overview on maybe why we're growing so quickly, why we can't keep up with ourselves, and what's going on with the energies. Because there might be people listening to this that aren't really au fait with Ascension and all that kind of thing. So,
Sure, sure, sure. So, I mean, if we're looking at Ascension itself, just to break that down a little bit, it really just is going into yourself and doing your personal work. And by doing that, you increase your frequency and knowledge base and connect further with universe and infinite intelligence. So, as we're right now on Earth, this is literally the most exciting place to be. It is so exciting. And it's so exciting because humans as a frequency, as a consciousness, decided that they really wanted to dive deep into some serious darkness. They wanted
okay.
to get that perspective. And by doing so, and with the understanding that they came in to also not remember things. They came in to specifically to remember who they were. And that's the dark period because that hasn't been done before. To completely wipe what you've known, what is universe, what is creation, what is consciousness, what is God or source, uh, that creates a massive bridge for everything else in the universe. So it's so exciting down here right now. And why we're awakening so fast right at this moment is because we passed a period of darkness. We passed a period where we were kind of in that stuckness for way too long. And by stuckness, I mean not remembering who we are. Um, Lots of constructs built around that, lots of further constructs to stop us from
I
remembering
just
who we
really
are.
get a sense when you're saying this about being taken advantage of.
Uh-huh, very much so.
So humanity was taken advantage of by, let's say, beings that weren't human.
Uh-huh. Yep. Taken advantage of, controlled, slavery, massively. And in fact, that's the biggest thing that we're still moving through is the fact that we were created out of slavery by other beings. And yet it's not to blame the other beings because the other beings as a whole, they're us. They're just an experiment for to see how that was going to work and how it was going to work best for them. But for us, we did end up breaking that, and we're still breaking it right now. But it is getting the control piece out of there. And so
That's
by
really,
cutting,
I'm hearing the word emancipation.
yeah, absolutely freedom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a process, isn't it? So that's the ascension is really an emancipation. Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's exciting. Because what I'm learning is that we're always needing something. The way we're made,
Mhm.
There's always a need. I need food. I need sugar. I need a drink. I need this person to love me. I need to buy this handbag. Okay, well, that's just me. So, and then when you get the food or you have the sugar and your body's like, I really didn't want that. And going, oh, I thought I wanted it, or that I need this person to love me. And if they don't love me, then you have all of the grief. And if they do love me, then I have that. Then what do I need next? And
Mhm.
it's, oh, I've got the handbag. Great. Oh, look, there's another handbag. So I'm feeling
Mhm.
okay. But because of the way that we're constructed and always needing something, I think there's another piece that's not talked about so much, which is always needing someone to tell us what to do. And that's
Mhm.
woven into the fabric of who we are as well. So we have our parents, we want the parents to tell us. And as you're
Mhm.
saying, if we're created to be a slave race, then we need our masters to tell us what to do.
Right.
And so, as we struggle with the addiction of needing food, needing drink, needing drugs, needing something, sex, buying stuff, then
Mhm.
maybe we're coming into a time where we're struggling with the idea of sovereignty as well. I think maybe that's what we're seeing. It's like, okay, what does it actually mean to be fully responsible for ourselves?
Mhm.
And just like addicts go back to the substance, people go back to the government, go back to the health system,
Mhm.
and seeing it in that light could make it easier for people who are struggling with it, or for people who are struggling with the people that they love who are struggling with it. And it's like, why is my family always going back to the medical system? And if the doc, I mean, I love my
Mhm.
brother so much, as you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
and he had a procedure to get rid of cancer from his body, and then it was
Mhm.
gone. But he was still anxious right up until the moment he sat in front of his doctor, and the doctor said, you don't have cancer anymore. Now, we knew weeks previous to that he didn't have it. But he didn't release himself from that anxiety until the doctor, the man in the wife. So we need someone of authority, and that's, I think, is what we need to shift as well. And this emancipation ascension. So
Emancipation. Exactly. Yeah, it's so deeply ingrained into our DNA from the beginning that we need something. We need something higher. We need something to tell us what to do. And like my mom the other day was a beautiful example. She had some ear stuff going on, and it's super clogged, and she couldn't hear. And she's been doing her self work for a period of time and really raising her vibration and frequency. And she kept hearing, "No, you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just fine." And I came to check on her, and she was running through those constructs of like, "Do I go to the hospital or do I not? I know that I'm gonna be just fine. Do I go or do I not?" And it was her process to go to the hospital to clear that construct that
yeah.
she needed to go to the hospital.
Oh, I know. I know, it's like me having a chat with my body. You really want the sugar? Okay, let's have the sugar. And then let's see how we feel after we have the sugar. Do you feel any better? You've had the sugar. You've had more than you need. What? No, actually, no, I didn't really want that. It's like,
Right.
so,
And it is that process of going and trying it out and then going back and being like, "Hey, did this work out for me? Was that really something that was necessary for me right at the moment?" And as soon as you question, and I do encourage the questioning because that's how you get into yourself and you work this ascension process, then you could go, "Oh, hey, like no, that didn't work for me." And as soon as you say that didn't work for me, you clear that, you cut the contract, you start to unravel all the toxins in your body from that construct that's been there for such a long time, and you can make another choice.
and I think as well, knowing that that is how we have been constructed, to be gentle with yourself. Oh, look, I'm doing it again. I think I need that person to love me. I think I need to buy this thing, and I say, okay, well, if it comes up 3 times, then I will buy this thing. And it's just like, I'm just going to buy it because I fucking want it, you know, which is fine. But I think it's a turning point, isn't it? Where we can see what we're doing and understand why we're doing it. And I think we're at a
Mhm,
precipice where people are asking the most interesting questions like, why are we here? And really, who are we? Who are
mhm,
we? And when we're looking for someone to tell us what to do, I'm really noticing Z, and I I have the greatest love for them, but people who are using the Bible as a structure to be the replacement for the government, the Bible's going to tell us what to do. And yes, religion's crap. And yes, the churches are crap. And yes, there are some good priests. And yes, there are some shitty priests. But there's still, here's a book, and I'm pledging my
Mhm,
allegiance to the book. And I can't do that. I just can't do that. But I'm
mhm.
seeing the process. It's like we have seats in the VIP area where we're just watching the show. At some
Exactly. And as you watch it, you're just kinda like, "Huh, isn't that interesting?" And I always meet it with curiosity because those consciousness, the ones that are in body who are doing that really feel like that's something that they're supposed to be doing. They feel
Yeah,
like that is the best route. And so for them, that's dropping the judgment and going, "Hey, look, that's your choice, and I understand that." And in order to really bust through that, when you're around them, is to fully be in yourself and have an understanding of that's not what I choose, though. That's not what I believe. I know who I am and I know what I'm connected to. And as soon as you have those beliefs, all the energy has to do is circulate around them and they start to question.
that's true. That is true. What else I love about these times that people who are listening to my podcast, Healing for Healers, are more than likely empath caregiver types who have taken on other people's energy over the years, become overweight with it, become sick from it. And that's a possibility of why you got sick. Maybe that you were soaking up too many other people's energies back when you were 21. But
Absolutely.
not having good boundaries. And I think if everyone was to come to the realization that it's your choice,
Mhm.
but you can't do it for anybody else. And there's a
Mhm.
grieving process around that too. To say, yeah,
Absolutely.
I wish I could jump into that person's body and make all of but then that's controlling them. And
It is.
we're actually depriving them of their chance to experience the learning that they're here for. So we have to let go and let go and let go. And it's
Yeah.
hard. It is hard.
It's challenging. It is very challenging to be human. This is not an easy route by any means. In any per given second, there's always something that does come up. And to really grieve, and I just had this process yesterday to really grieve my past self. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And our emotions here are our compass. That's really our evolution, being able to feel those. That's not something that is done anywhere else either, the feeling portion of things, the way that we do it.
Wow.
So,
That's my trilogy, by the way, The Inner Compass. It's all
yes.
about feeling and clearing the inner compass. But as you're speaking there, and I was just saying about VIP tickets and how Earth is the most interesting place, I'd really like to ask you, because this week in particular for me, not to timestamp this or anything, but I've really felt a connection to a higher frequency of ETs or cosmic light beings. And I've been working as a healer myself now for about 14 years. And I've never, and when they came to me, I struggled with it. And this was about 10 years ago, say, when I didn't want to connect in with them. And then, oh, we need to come in. And then they start to come in very gradually into my healing sessions. And then
Mhm,
I felt that the session that I ran this week was completely orchestrated by them. They told me what to call it. I'm like, okay, I called it that, and then I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. It was healing with ascended masters, right? So I'm going, okay, so do I need to go and look in the encyclopedia and get all the names of all the ascended masters? Like, no, you'll find out
mhm,
when we get there. And it's just incredible the different frequencies. And so what they had me do was first of all, everybody is their own master and their higher self is the master of them. Oh,
mhm.
you know.
Hey,
So we went up
yes.
a staircase and there were three gates on the staircase. And the top gate, well, okay, I was seeing if people are interested in what the gates were. The first gate was an earth kind of feeling. It was like the mythologies of the earth where the deities of earth lived. And you can go in
Yeah.
there and talk to who you wanted to. And I didn't say anything, just off you go and then come back. And then the next gate was higher up, was a rose quartz gate, and it was just for healing. That's it.
Mhm,
You got your
mhm,
healing. And then you went up to the top gate. And this was the incredible bit, Z. It was a platform. crystalline platform, and there were bubble spaceships, and you find your little bubble spaceship and then you go off somewhere. So everybody went to a different place, but they kept going up and up and up. And then they
Mhm,
all had
mhm.
their journeys. They came back down to the platform, and then the delegation from Venus came to remind everybody that they're still learning how to come down. And they were very appreciative that we went up to meet them halfway. But that
Oh,
platform
yeah.
wasn't even the halfway because they had to go up again to go to wherever they went.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that Venusian delegation came to me, I would say about 6, 7 years ago, and knocked me out. And I was on the floor, have about passed out totally
Oh,
to get
wow.
the upgrades
Mhm.
to be able to communicate with them. So I'm wondering, do you think there's even higher frequency than that coming in? Where are we? I know I'm talking too much.
Yeah. I'm loving this. So you're great. There is even higher frequency. There's it's an infinite proportion of frequencies that just continue up and up and up and up. And right now, we actually are open to all of those frequencies. We just haven't remembered that we're open to all those frequencies. That we have the ability to really feel all those frequencies and be there with all those frequencies and still be in our body.
Okay. Because I do get that sense that they're here. It's just going through the layers of dimensions of here to access them.
Mhm.
So it's a construct in our human mind that we have to go up to it. Is that it?
That is it. That is
That's
very much so it.
amazing. Yeah.
Once you understand that everything is a construct, every tiny thing, you know how limitless this universe is. Even though the constructs of the human body is a construct. Uh, knowing that, knowing that we have the ability to reach all of those frequencies where we're at, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities for humans? It's really it's beautiful. It's endless. It opens up a lot.
Do you know what comes to my mind when you say that? That if people don't do their inner work, they're
Mhm,
caught in their head and they're listening to crappy thoughts and they
mhm.
can't hear it when those frequencies get in touch with us.
That's right.
That's what I think. And I think that this construct, as you say, of the world with the distraction of the pettiness and the drama
Mhm.
and is keeping people. I mean, my mom is sitting in a house on her own, worried about stuff that's happening 3,000 miles away that she's never going to be affected by. If you could
Right.
actually sit in silence, silence your mind, stop thinking, then these things just come in so quickly. And then people get scared of that too. What would you say to people who get scared?
I would say be easy with yourself and understand that it's okay to be where you're at first off and foremost by having this slight little bit of awareness of going, hey, there's something else out there, or why am I thinking this? You are stopping that construct and that thinking mind from taking over everything. Right. And I mean the physical thinking mind. Because the universe, that's the first universal law is a law of the mind. Thought
Yes.
forms is what creates things. Right. So the human construct, the physical construct, that mind tries to take over and stops the
Mhm.
higher mind, which is the one who's directing everything from consciousness from moving forward in things. So it's understanding the human perspective in the mind and stopping all the chatter. And not even stopping it right off the bat, it's understanding it and catching it while you're doing
Yes.
it. Mhm.
I hear you on that. And it's interesting as well, this whole thing with Pluto coming in,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
because people are like, oh, Pluto. And I decided that Pluto is going to be my best friend.
Yeah.
I've connected into Pluto this week and I've said, can you give me the strength and the discipline that I need to control these behaviors that distract me? Calling on, and I think self-discipline, there's not enough about that. It's really important so that you're
Mhm.
going through all these. It goes back to what we were saying. I need the sugar, I need the, but you just say, no, I don't. But it's
Mhm.
actually saying, no, enough of this. And maybe we need to call on an aspect of us that's not really present and embodied yet. What would you say
Mhm.
about that?
I would definitely say that. I mean, for Pluto too, and people getting really distracted on this Pluto part where when Pluto's just like, "Hey, I'm just giving you an opportunity to go further into yourself and not be distracted by something else," right?
Yeah.
That's really what that's saying. Um, to really go internally and to calm yourself and have an understanding that these constructs are there, but they don't own you.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I'd like to hear the word emancipation used more in the collective. I'd like to hear the word self-regulation
Yeah.
used a lot
Yes.
more in the
Agreed.
collective. I'll give you an example of that. I was at a gathering last weekend with a group of people, and somebody got very emotional. The energy
Mhm.
frequency changed. Okay, I changed the energy frequency, and this guy started to cry, and everybody rushed in to calm him down.
Mhm.
You know, the guy was a big guy. I think he was 7 foot or 7.5 foot. He's a
Wow.
huge,
Okay.
massive. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
he's like a giant.
Mhm.
And so the idea that this big man was crying upset a lot of
Mhm.
people in the room, and they wanted to rush in there. But I was thinking that they were experiencing the discomfort of seeing somebody in pain, and they wanted him to stop.
Mhm.
Whereas I
Mhm.
think for him, the most useful thing is to be able to release and control the release himself.
Absolutely.
And so self-regulation without the use of a person or without stopping, it's really important. And with all these iPads and phones, and you see all the children who
Distraction.
don't never learn how to self-regulate because
Right.
the
Right,
phone as
right.
a crutch.
'Cause our distraction rate as humans is massive. We love our distractions away from looking at ourselves,
Yeah.
you know? So to self-regulate is to really say, "I've got this and I can do this, and it's okay to be emotional right now. I'm gonna let myself release that." And and then I know on the other side of that, I'm gonna feel better, and there's gonna be something else there for me that I can step into, an empowerment, more freedom, right? Emancipation.
Right. You know
Get
what
it!
else I learned at
Freedom!
this gathering? I saw pictures of the Statue of Liberty, and I never
Okay.
knew that she has chains and shackles around her ankles and feet.
He does. Yep.
It's just
Mhm.
like, so there they are thinking freedom and liberty, and she's chained. So she wasn't actually free at all. It's just, I think that's a real symbol of our times when
It
we
is.
never saw that before. Everyone I've said it to, oh, I didn't know that. I had to look it up on Google to see, was it true? It's
Mhm.
just
Mhm. Mhm.
unbelievable how much enslavement was going on. And even though you're not aware of it, you're enslaved by your 9 to 5, you're enslaved by your taxes, enslaved by
Absolutely.
your families, enslaved by your
Mhm.
culture, by your beliefs, all of these things.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And also too, just wanna note for that person who was getting very emotional, to really be okay with the fact that it's okay for someone to be feeling pain. And even if somebody was there to be like, "Hey, you know what? I trust that he's got himself." You might go up to the person and be like, "Hey, I'm just here and that's all." You know?
Yeah.
Have that support piece because that's also what we're here to do as humans. We need each other to move forward.
That's it. That's it. There's no point three people getting to the upper echelons of whatever. And there's just three
Right.
people there, and it's like, where's everybody else? And they're all going to McDonald's and they're watching the news and all that kind of
Exactly.
thing.
We're all like, what is everybody doing?" Yeah, it's really massive right now because 'cause we've been in this aspect of slavery and not being able to connect to each other and not being able to be in a real community with each other that we've lost sight of what that actually looks like, and humans were made for that. And actually, right now where we're at, we need each other, and I don't need that in a like a needy type of a way or a need or a want. It's just working together so that we can raise a consciousness.
That's
That
it.
means we're not doing this by ourselves.
And
We're never gonna do it by ourselves.
it's a different kind of community. It's not a community like when we're teenagers and we all want to fit in and we're telling lies and cutting off pieces of ourselves to be fitting in. It's a community where it's like, I see you
Exactly.
and I appreciate your differences and I value your perspective because of those differences, and you
Yes.
value mine. And together we have more of a piece of the puzzle than we ever would have had if we're all just
Absolutely.
trying to be nice to each other. You know, so I can't watch these sitcoms anymore. It's like because they're all telling lies just to fit in. It's like I can't do that.
Yep,
One little white lie turns into this mountain of lies, and that's how people have been living, and we need to free ourselves from that as well.
exactly, exactly. It's a new way of living. It really is.
Well, for those of you listening, me and Z and Honey are creating a community. And
Yes.
it's bridging higher consciousness, and we'll put the links with everything that we, where we're posting this. And again, it feels like baby steps. It feels like, okay, let's try it this way and let's try it that way. And our community so far is very chatty, very excited to
Very
share with
much
each
so.
other. And
Uh-huh.
it's a beautiful thing, because if you think of it as a crest of a wave, the people at the crest are scattered all across the world, and so you might not find your tribe, who get you at the fullness of who you are living in the city where you live. So
Right.
using online communities, I think, is fantastic, and that's what we're going to do. So
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and we're doing it, and I have to admit, I'm so grateful for the group that we have because they are really putting themselves out there and they're supporting each other. It is a beautiful community that I actually haven't seen that good on an online surface even. So, I've
you
been
know what
watching
I
it, I'm like,
love about it? They're not pulling on us at all. They're helping each
exactly.
other, and that's what community
Uh-huh.
is. So they're coming in as sovereign beings who are learning who they are and
Mhm.
comparing notes and sharing, and then they go back to their own, let's say, the physical communities, which might not be the same frequency, but they're bringing that out. So that
Yes.
instead of being like the teenager who wants to be accepted, they can show who they are, not necessarily everything, but know who they are on the inside, so that they're not lying to themselves, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, which is big, which is really what we're here to do is really to express our unique self and know ourselves so much that when we're around others, it's just a respect for where they're at, who they are, without any judgment, without any attachment to it. And that's how you have the ability to connect further and love more.
So I think I'd like to do, to wrap this up, is for each of us to give our suggestions to people who are listening as to how they can do exactly that while keeping their tolerance levels up for people who might just not be able to even hear what they're saying. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Yes, absolutely.
Because that's happening as well. It's like people just blank out, and it's like you're talking about something and they just don't hear you. And it could be something very straightforward or simple that they just don't hear. It's almost like you're speaking, the CB radios, and it's like you're just on a totally different frequency, and they hear the noise, but they don't hear the words. And then it's very strange. So there's a lot of strangeness happening like that right now.
So much, so much. So I would first say just be really, really a lot of self-care. Really, really be gentle with yourself and where you're at and what your situation is. Find and not it's not even fine because right now our attraction points are so big with us who are in this evolutionary point that it's finding the people who can understand you where you're at and
Well, what
keeping
is
that.
attraction point?
Yes. So your attraction point is the frequency that you sit at currently. It's
Okay.
it's
So
what you're
attraction
emanating.
point as an
Yeah,
attraction point. Okay. Good. Yeah.
exactly. It's what you're emanating outwards and inwards. It's coming from the inward first and then emanating itself outwards. And that is what is coming to you. That's what the universe brings back to you. It's what your energy brings back to you. This is all contracted too. All of your family, your tribe, they're all contracted to be a part of your perspective, and it is to support you even when it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes, even
But
with
then
your
by you
family.
holding that point, then you're also influencing them and shifting them as well.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
you're saying upgrade to self-care, be really.
Be really gentle. Just go inward as much as possible and know that you're never given more than you can handle, like ever. Our higher selves know what to do with that and they know what our bodies are working with. They're not going to ever give us more. So understanding that and self-regulating and going inwards and really breaking down any of your thought forms or constructs that really don't feel good and aren't working for you anymore is a really great place to be right now.
So I'm just called to ask, would you have like a little energy exercise that people could use that, that they could utilize as a self-care kind of a thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, oh, there's so many exercises. I would first, I would do this every single morning. I do it every single morning. Is I just do a body check. Okay, where's my body at? What does it feel like? What's going on with it? If you can really get settled into your physical body and have an understanding of where it's at, that is a really big, big step to self awareness. And I do this every single morning. And it really just helps me know, okay, like, what am I feeling? What is it that I need to do today with my body, with myself, in order
Mm,
to take a step for myself, in order to be in my own power? Is it to take action? Is it to rest more? Is it to eat less or eat more? Really get into yourselves in that way.
that's fantastic. Thank you for that. I'm going to
Absolutely.
add one in as well, because
Mhm,
for me right now, what I'm learning is it's not just about self-care. It's
mhm,
not just about tolerance of those around you and love and compassion and all of those great things. It's also about discovery and exploration.
yes.
So, for those of us that feel activated by the mysteries that are unfolding, such as who are we? If we don't use the Bible as the structure for our lives, what do we use? You know, who are these amazing beings? How do I connect into my own masters? How do I hear my master of myself? To spend time exploring that because
Mhm,
it activates or ignites your zest for life, a
yeah,
vibrancy, and a desire to be here. It's like it switches you on. And then you find your tribe that you can talk to about this. Oh, I don't have
mhm,
a tribe. Well, come to me and Z's tribe.
yeah,
There's tribes everywhere. But if
uh-huh,
you can find, and I'm really speaking to those of you who are listening, if you can find what your passion is right now, and we're talking about the reactivation of the magical child. So maybe you were a magical child that just wasn't as active as that magical child as Z was. Okay, so I'm not saying you weren't, maybe you just didn't switch on at all because you just knew there wasn't any point.
mhm,
Just say, okay, I'm ready to switch on now. Set your intention. What is it you want to know? Where's my passion? What's the mysteries? That turn, do I want to paint again? I know Honey's going back into painting and creating. I've
yeah,
got friends who are taking pictures. I've got other friends who are making things with their hands. I've taken up crochet, but that nourishes your soul.
yes.
So, if you're listening to this podcast, you are on the upper echelons of the frequencies. We're not more special than anybody else. We're just here and we're holding space for the others to get here. But
Mhm,
in the meantime, there's no reason why we can't look forward, look ahead, look into, unravel, and open the treasures that are right here
absolutely.
for us and share that information. Just like I put out the words I want to hear more about. What would you like to hear more about? What do you want to create? What do you want to see in your world? And go and make
Mhm.
it. So,
Exactly. This is your creation. Be curious about it. Look at it as an adventure. Every single day, that's what I do. I'm curious about my day, and it's going to be an adventure. What does that look like? How do I want it to look like? What
yeah,
is my highest excitement point? And that's also something that really gets us into the phase of creation of our passion and being in our child self, which is massively important.
massively. And it also gets us taking responsibility for our own lives, for the interests, for the things that we're spending our energy on. And that breaks us out of the slavery pattern and into the emancipation. So,
Emancipation.
freedom. But I had so much fun talking to you, and I know we're going to do this again. And thank you so much
Yes.
for
Oh, it's
making this
beautiful. Thank you.
video. And it's great to get to know you a bit better.
Absolutely. It's been lovely. Thank you so much. I'm so
So, where
excited
can
to
people
continue.
find you if they want to meet you, just you?
Yeah, so I am working with the Bridging Higher Consciousness, so you can find me with that. That'll be linked down there. And then my website is the-zcollective.com, and you can find me there.
I will have to have a whole nother podcast about why you call yourself that. but
Yeah.
not today.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
funny.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Love you so much.